Hello everyone, we're now on Chapter 6, which is entitled Supporting Business Level Strategy, Competitive and Cooperative Moves. In this slideshow, I didn't put anything in about cooperative moves because this is a competition in the business strategy game, but please keep in mind there is value to cooperating with different organizations and companies in the real world. But just for this game and for our purposes right now, we're not going to go through any cooperation just because it's not something that you can do in the business strategy game. One of the strategies you should think about is to become the first mover into a market. But with that comes the possibility you can be wildly successful and then a pretty colossal failure. I think Apple, the commentary at the bottom of this slide, Apple's Newton was one that I remember. If you could find a Newton, a personal digital assistant, these days, good luck, maybe at a garage sale. But then again, look at Sony. It came back from, Japan's economy was in pretty bad shape after World War II. And Sony came out with some very, very innovative electronics and is now one of the most respected brands around. So be thinking about those things. You might decide you're going to be a disruptor, and I think we've heard of many types of disruptive products or services, some named here, and then you think say for example about Uber and Lyft. They've completely disrupted the taxi market. You think of say for example Airbnb has disrupted the hotel market, and these are just some things. If you have an idea that captures the imagination of the customer base, again, you could be wildly successful. Let's talk for a minute or two about how to deal with competition. And speed of response is going to be important. We're going to have in the business strategy game a very heightened sense of competition, just because each week we'll be doing one year in the life of corporate history. And you're going to be working with international competition. You're going to be working in international markets, and you might want to look at a situation where you're, facing some of the same teams, and all of the same teams for that matter, in a number of markets, and you might want to just concentrate on only one market or just a few markets, or you might want to become very good in one market so that you perhaps can dominate that market. And then the mutual forbearance is you might just decide you might have more to lose by attacking or trying to undercut your competitors in a market, and you might just decide to stay low key and out of the way in certain markets. And as they say here, the three options for responding to disruptive innovation is you can ignore it, you can engage in a counterattack with some sort of different type of feature, and the reason I'm saying feature rather than different goods or services is you're working on athletic shoes, and you might put in some different types of features that you think may be a good way to counterattack the disruption. Or you could just follow your competitor and do the same thing. Something to think about as we move on through this business strategy game. And keep in mind, too, is you might want to do a version of your product that's sort of lower end, and you might want to be looking at, say, something similar to a fighting brand where you do kind of a low-end type of product in a certain market. So other things to keep in mind as we move through the business strategy game. As I mentioned in the beginning, you're really not going to be focused on cooperation. Primarily, this is competition. But just so we don't leave this out, here's some ideas on joint ventures, strategic alliances, co-location, and coopetition. Just for your understanding, and we're not saying these aren't good ideas. In many cases, cooperation is a great idea. But as I said before at the beginning of this chapter, this isn't really something you can do in the business strategy game. In conclusion, just keep in mind that the business strategy game is a competition, and you're going to have to figure out how to deal with the other competitors in your many markets that you're responsible for. So keep that in mind and work together with your co-managers to develop a strategy. The important thing is to develop a strategy and then execute the strategy, and then as you get your results in, you can see how well your strategy is doing, and then you can figure out how to respond to your competitors and change your strategy if it's required from your results.